Hell yeah. Right.
All right. So long story short is I got very lucky where, I didn't want to rely on
Right.
money on just the acting industry. And one of my best friends from college in 2009 moved to Austin. He was a wholesaler of houses. And since 2011, he's like, buy here, buy here, buy here. And I'm pretty entrepreneurial, but
Yeah.
I'd say more so than most other actors. Actors in general are
Oh, for sure.
typically not so business savvy. They're more artists.
Yep.
I'm like a street smart New York raised entrepreneur. And my dad's like hardcore business guy, came up from nothing. And so I'm very entrepreneurial and how do I make my money make money. And I got very lucky. I bought a house in Austin in 2014
Nice.
for $103,000
Oh, jeez.
in 2014.
Yeah.
And I had money saved, so I put 50K down. I was also one of those actors that a lot of actors, when they book a job, they quit their side hustle and they fucking just live off of that or collect unemployment, which I didn't do.
Yeah.
I always kept my side hustle. When I was working on a show, on the weekends, I would still work at Chateau Marmont. I would still teach jujitsu, personal train. I'd literally be on set all week, work at Chateau Marmont on the weekend, and see people I worked with at Chateau Marmont and try to like hide myself so they wouldn't see that I'm working there because it's kind of like
That's funny.
lowbrow. But yeah, that allowed me to buy. I put 50% down. I put 50K down on the house. I had a really low mortgage, and then had a tenant. And then like 2014, the rent was like $1,150 or $1,200 a month. And now,
Wow.
since Austin has skyrocketed, the value of the house is essentially 3x and the rent is 2x. So
That's awesome,
I'm pretty
dude.
happy. And I have 3 properties.
That's great, man.
Yeah, it's great, but it's also, it's work.
Yeah.
It's not like I got to deal with this shit.
Yeah.
But,
How do you have a guy? You have boots on the ground in Austin?
Exactly. So I have a so-so property manager where the way it works, I don't know if you have any properties. Property managers do the least amount of work for the most amount of money. They're not going to vet, like you get a call from I don't get the call. They get a call from the tenant saying, yeah, I got a leak. They're just going to have one of their contracted plumbers, and essentially up to $400, they're allowed to spend my money up to $400 without asking. So they say, hey, we have this request for a plumber. Do you want us to send our guy, or you have 24 hours to send your guy? I have my guys because I've been doing it for I've been doing it since 14, so 10 years. I have a Rolodex of guys that I trust and I know that they're good for the money. If they send a licensed plumber there, I'm going to get charged $350 for a job that costs $125.
Mm-hmm.
So 80% of the time I use my contractors, and then 20% of the time I'll let them do it just for the headache purposes. But currently I'm doing a full renovation, new floors, fully painting everything, putting in new toilets, new tubs. So it's a bit of a hassle, and there's bumps in the road as per usual.
Right. And you found your contractor just from having properties there and talking to a lot of different contractors throughout the years?
Great question. So like I said, I have a mentor there who's one of my closest friends from college. I trust him. He's already been there since 2008 or 2009, so he has his list. But Austin has gotten so saturated and so full that half of his guys are so busy. But I got pretty savvy from renovating my own home in Florida. Believe it or not, I use Facebook Marketplace. You join the groups. Because I'm not boots on the ground in Austin, what I did is I joined Austin Handyman. Because really it's all marketing, as you know. There are people that are handymen. There are people that are HVAC people. There are people that are painters in Austin, and they want work. So they'll join these groups like Austin Paint, Austin Handyman, and then just Austin Neighborhood, whatever. So I have these groups, and I put a post, hey, I'm looking for a painter. And then I'll have 8 people or 6 people hit me up. I'll vet them. It's a little bit of a headache, but I'll allocate X amount of time to vetting out the best guy. And the painter I found so far has been great. Like, and that wasn't through my guy Howie, who's my mentor. If I used his guy, it would have been 2X, who's like a professional painter. But I got my guy, I got references, I got pictures of projects he'd done. Then I sent his estimate to my buddy. He's like, yeah, that's a good price. He's like, my guy's going to be double that. So I used this guy, and so far he's been good.
Dude, that's awesome. When COVID happened, you know, my girlfriend and I are trainers. We've been trainers. I think when I met you, when you and I and Kit were rolling, I was still driving Lyft.
Oh, right. So you weren't a trainer yet.
I was not a trainer yet. I started training, I want to say, end of 2018.
Okay.
So I think we might have met a year before that. So I was driving Lyft. That was why I was able to do jiu-jitsu, you know, during the day and stuff.
Yeah.
But then I became a trainer at Equinox. And my girlfriend had been a trainer there for about 2 years before me. And she opened up the Culver City Equinox.
Oh, wow. So she was like an exec.
She got into management.
Yeah, in management.
She got into management. So she opened that gym. And then she ran that gym for maybe 3 years or so. And then when the pandemic happened, we just went private.
Smart.
Right? Which, you know, changed my lifestyle completely. But we bought into a real estate mentorship community, and the number one thing we didn't have was a mentor that was in the area that we were trying to buy in. And it's like, damn, it's like that is the key, it seems, with this kind of work.
I got very lucky.
That's awesome, though, dude.
So keep in mind, I have 3 mentors. And whenever I would get a deal, like let's say one gave me a deal, I would pass it along to the other 2. So I have my childhood best friend from New York, who's a big real estate guy in New York. I have my college best friend who's in Austin. And then I have Paul Schoen, who you know. You know Paul from
Beverly Hills.
He's a huge real estate developer here in LA.
Yeah.
So I've invested both with Paul and my buddy in Austin, who when one would give me a deal, I'd pass it to the other 2, and they'd be like, here's the good, here's the bad, and vice versa. So I had 3 different mentors, and it is kind of lucky, but also like
that's what you got to do.
Other people didn't take advantage, because I know people in our inner circle group that didn't invest with Paul. But, you know, ironically, you know, I've hit home runs with Paul on deals, and then there's also a current deal that got caught up in COVID that isn't a home run. And, you know, we're still working that out. I got my money locked up in a building that got purchased in a deal that got purchased in 2019. They didn't start production until 2020. That fucked everything up.
Yeah.
You know, 3x cost, interest rates hike, and then cost of goods hike. So, you know, just because you got the mentors doesn't mean, you know, we could get all into that about real estate.
There's still a huge risk.
But, you know, there's always risk.
Yeah. So what's the goal right now with interest rates and, like, you know, your future plans with real estate?
Pertaining to real estate, my goal, my objective right now with real estate is be patient.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think we have too much volatility. But I'm also I'm in a good place where I bought my house in Florida in 2021 at a very good price. Yeah. So my mortgage and everything for where I'm raising my family is very low. Now, I don't have a ton of income coming in, but I do have some passive income coming in, and I don't have a lot of debt, and my you know, mortgage and interest and insurance and property tax is pretty low, considering, like, I'm under $3K a month, PITI all in, property tax, insurance. So I could live pretty good without, you know, kids are expensive, but so my goal is to be patient. If there was a deal that was like a no-brainer, like, hey, somebody's fucking offloading this house that's clearly undervalued, meaning like our neighbor's house, it's a hoarder house. he's a 97-year-old man and he just fell. He's a sweet man. But if his family wants to sell us his house for like $500K, and I know that in the shape it's in, I could sell it for 600. But if I put 100 into it, I could sell it for 800. I'll do that. But unless something like that falls on my lap, I'm gonna chill right now. I just think volatility and like interest rate, you could get good returns on your money. Like I just put like T-bills, you could get like 5.3% for treasury bills. So I'm like, whatever little, I don't have a ton of savings, but whatever little bit of savings I have right now, I'm just letting it get my 5% and wait until less volatility, lowered interest rates, and then a home run deal comes on my way. That's my goal, is just be patient.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I heard people saying the same thing last year, you know, with interest rates, and it's not really changed for the better.
I agree, but what is going to happen is, and what people aren't talking about is, people sadly are getting killed. People are getting foreclosed on.
Yeah.
I don't think the wave has really hit of shitstorm, and I do think that there is a bit of a real estate shitstorm. There are a ton of people that are trapped, meaning they want to move, but they can't because of the interest rates. So there's not a ton of movement. But there's also people that are like, I know for a fact, especially developers, they're getting killed because of the interest rates.
Yeah.
And you know, they're not 30-year loans on those deals. On the development, on like construction loans and commercial loans, they're not 30 years. So they adjust. So some of those adjusted rates, when they went from 4% or 5%, and now they're going to go up to 8-9%, it's a huge difference on a couple $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. And
So,
do you think single family is what you'll stay in, or do you have multi?
So multifamily would be anything over 4 units.
Yeah.
I believe that's the definition. So to me, it's about partnership, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
If I do like being on my own, like I have one minority share in like a 14 unit in LA, which is a very expensive building, which I could never afford that level at this point in my life. But I like the fact that I own 5%. I'm very hands off. But at this point, I just don't believe in Los Angeles. I would love to sell out my shares in that.
Right.
And I cannot, because I'm a minority shareholder and nobody wants to buy it. That said, I've already had my full investment given back to me on the refi, and I'm getting monthly dividends. Yeah. So the answer to that question is, I prefer smaller. One of the biggest lessons I learned in life is, like, the theme of every 80s and 90s movie is like, everybody wants more and more and more, like Scarface and Goodfellas. People never got it, but I have had a good friend of mine just, pass away because it was never enough. And he was a multimillionaire and kept leveraging, wanted bigger, better, faster. And he got killed. He literally, the market freaking, he lost everything and he couldn't take life. So the answer to that question, I think slow and steady, and I like more control. So unless it was like a family member or like a best friend and we're going half and half when I moved to Florida, we were this close to pulling the trigger on an 8-unit building in Pompano Beach with my best friend and my brother-in-law. Yeah. My New York best friend. And it didn't go through, but I would do something like that. But I don't think bigger is better. I don't think. I'd rather like a single family, a duplex, or a triplex, something like that.
I hear you. It's just great to hear you talk about real estate, man, because like, you know how it is, and you said at the very beginning, actors don't invest in anything. They're not looking for any kind of opportunity. Yeah, generally, most of your conversations are not going to be like, "Hey, what about this house over here?"
Yeah, exactly. They're not.
So that's really cool.
I think it's a huge. And by the way, I didn't know you were a trainer. That was my side hustle. Essentially, my whole acting career from 2003 on, my side hustle was training, and still to this day, I have a couple clients here in Florida that I train.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I had no idea.
I built a gym in my garage. So I do one BJJ client in there because I bought the 3/4-inch puzzle mats.
Yes.
And then I got like 3 clients that come to my house. And it's so convenient. And I don't charge that much One, because it's not LA, there's not LA money here in Florida, and
Yeah.
two, they're coming to me. It's so convenient, like, to just be at my house. Like yesterday, I had 3 clients. They came to my house, and I'm literally in my garage doing a quick session. It's almost like I would do it anyway,
Right. Yeah.
So it's pretty convenient, and it's always a good side hustle. I think I'm good at it. I don't hate it. And I think it's a very smart side hustle, especially if you go off on your own and you don't have some pimp giving you $25 an hour when they charge 100.
Yeah.
Is
It's a
that
rough
what the
one.
cut was at Equinox?
Dude, it was like 35.
35, and they're probably taking 65.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was rough. So I was like, I think at the top I was charging 135 a session,
Right.
but only getting 35 or 40
Yeah.
bucks.
Yeah.
And then
That
now
doesn't
if
seem
you do 100 sessions, you might get 45 a session.
right.
You know,
But
they'll
that's
bump
still,
that up
but it's
10
still
bucks.
like when you're
Yeah.
doing the bulk of the work. I remember because I started, which doesn't exist anymore. I started at Bally's. You remember that
Yeah,
place?
yeah,
You
yeah.
ever heard of it?
Was
So
that the one in
Bally's
Culver?
is where it actually it's now in LA Fitness. It was on El Centro in Hollywood, but they turned
Yeah.
it into an LA Fitness. But that was my first training job. I learned from it what I could, and then like I had a bunch of clients, and then probably 2 or 3 came with me when I went off on my own. But realistically, I'd rather have 3 clients and charge $80 an hour than have 9 clients and get 35 an hour. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
kind of, yeah. So
Oh
that
yeah.
was the way I did it. And, I think it's a great side hustle. And again, not a lot of actors have the foresight or know how to go off on their own and really acquire. That's sales,
Skills.
that's networking. So, it is a great side hustle.
Yeah. I mean, I had to put any type of film pursuit, acting pursuit, stand-up pursuit on hold to build the skill of, all the sales, the marketing, the training when I applied to Equinox. It's just
Yeah.
like, all right, I've been out here for, 4 years now. I drove a bus. I'm driving Lyft. I got to figure something else out.
Yeah.
And
Where
I
are you
had
from
coached
again?
North Carolina.
North
Yeah.
Carolina.
Yeah.
And you came specifically for acting and
Yeah, I was
stand-up?
I was a film major, and but my concentration was in screenwriting.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, my brother and I have written a few scripts. We're actually in a deal right now. Hopefully, fingers crossed, contracts will be signed soon for my brother's book.
Hell yeah.
My brother's a novelist. Yeah, so we're trying to adapt that.
Good shit, man.
So yeah,
And you're
man.
still
So
pursuing acting and writing and stand-up, right?
stand up is the pursuit. Yeah.
Okay. Love it.
But I'm trying to build the following through YouTube,
Yeah.
right? Because like, dude, I was doing stand up, and I luckily got into the Comedy Store. A buddy of mine, I was doing stand up. I'd done stand up a couple times at little coffee shops, and I was just this southern white guy showing up in this coffee shop, roasted and toasted near Groundlings,
Okay.
right? And
Groundlings is on Melrose, right?
dude, I went there one time and
Okay.
I never went back. But
Okay.
it was fun, man. And but you can't get much traction, you know what I mean, unless you have an online presence.
Yeah.
And so I met a guy, Agostino Zoida, great stand up. Been doing stand ups I think since 18. I think he's my age now, 35, 36. Maybe a little bit younger than me. And amazing. I met him at the Ice House. He was headlining in the main room at the Comedy Store. He was like, "Hey man, you want to do 5 minutes at the Comedy Store?" I was like, "Dude, yes." And he was like, "No one's ever said yes that quick. What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I'm a wrestler, dude. Like, just I'll go in. If I fail, I fail. Like that mentality is just what you have as a competitor." And he was like, "Okay, cool." So I do stand up 5 minutes, and I was like, "Okay, this is what I got to do. I got to make this transition somehow. Whether it takes me 10 years to get here." But
How many years
this
in
seems
are you doing stand-up now?
well. I've taken a few years off, man.
So
So
you haven't gone on stage for a minute?
I haven't gone on stage maybe 3 or 4 years.
Got it. Okay.
But the goal is build the YouTube so I can get in more clubs
Yeah.
and work on that craft more.
I have
Because
a very close friend, one of my closest friends, who is I've seen his path. Like I knew him before he was a stand-up and he was just an actor. I
yeah,
knew him when he was just a white belt as a stand-up. And I'd say now he's a purple belt and he's doing all right. He's actually on tour with Brian Callen and
was that Kevin?
Oh, you know Kevin Mack? Fuck.
Yeah, well, we rolled a couple times. Yeah,
Yeah, there you go. Kevin Mack is killing it, man. And
nice,
he
dude.
wrote, directed a film. He wrote
Okay,
another film. He's like in talks with some bigger stuff, and
yeah,
he's doing pretty well actually.
that's great.
But he's heavily involved in the stand-up world.
Nice, man. That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I
I
know that
remember.
just because I saw his path.
Yeah, yeah, and is he in his 40s?
He is in his 40s.
He is. That's right. That's right. Yeah, and he was acting and doing stand up. I think when I
Yeah.
was there. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. But yeah, that's the
He's
goal.
like 7 years in, something like that. Sounds
Nice,
about right.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As a comedian, which I look at like jujitsu. Like
yeah,
you don't get good at it until like you're a high-ranking blue belt or purple. So he
for sure.
probably really hit his peak at like 4 years, where I'm like, okay, he's fucking legit. He's not just fucking around stand-up. He's a legit
Right.
stand-up. You know?
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. That's good, man. I knew he was friends with Brian Count. I didn't know that he was still pursuing that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
I saw you on Roadhouse, and I was like, damn, there's Johnny.
Yeah, dude.
So and Steven did that one, right? Stunt
Yeah,
coordinator.
Steve Brown. Steve Brown, you're talking about? Yeah,
Yeah.
Steve Brown. So, Roadhouse was awesome. So a lot of people don't know, like, I'm a fucking journeyman actor. I've been acting since 2002.
Yeah.
And, without having any ego, like, I'm proud of the shit that I've done. I've been on a lot of fucking shows. I want to say from 2008 to 2016, I was a consistently working actor. And I worked on, I was on a show called Justified for.
I was going to say
4.5
Justified. Yep.
seasons. Yeah.
That's where my brother first saw you. My brother saw you on Justified. He's like, "Hey, dude, this guy's good." Like
Oh,
he
wow.
he dude, it's so funny. He was like, "If you get out to LA, you should look Johnny up because
Wow.
he's like doing the same thing that you're like. He's getting bit parts here and there, and he's
Yeah.
really good." And I was like, oh, "Okay,
Yeah.
cool." And I looked you up, and then all of a sudden, I go to a jiu-jitsu gym, and you're there.
That's fucking crazy. I didn't
It
even
is,
know that.
dude.
That's awesome. Tell your brother thanks. But yeah, man,
Yeah,
I'm
man.
same thing. Wrestler. I
Yeah.
went to LA, zero. Not, I was a theater major in college, but that doesn't give you shit. Like unless you go
No.
to unless you're like NYU Tisch or Yale or some shit like that, you come out to LA, you're a theater fucking major. It doesn't give you much, and that those great playwrights that you study and it doesn't help much in the room, especially when you have to start doing co-stars and it's like a couple lines on a procedural. Theater piece of paper doesn't give you much. That said, extra work, the progression was extra work to student films to non-union piece of shit low budget horror films, which, man, what a great time that was. You look back, you're like, I don't want to do it again, but man, that was a fucking good time in life. Like,
Yeah.
24 years old out in some fucking desert with a bunch of other like young, pretty actors, and you're getting paid $50 a day or nothing. And
Right.
you're just having fun making movies on like these locations. You're eating cereal and fucking pizza. That's it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I put in my fucking dues. And
Yeah.
I want to say my wrestler mindset, what stuck me apart, not saying that I'm not a good actor. I'm a good actor, but I'm not Daniel Day-Lewis. There are some actors in my acting class, some of the best I've ever seen. And I'm talking about including on TV and film. Some of the best actors I've ever seen were in class. And the sad thing is they have 0 credits. It is heartbreaking where you see people like, holy shit, you're fucking amazing. And you're like, what have you been working? And they've made 0 money off of it.
Yeah.
The difference about me is I'm good, right? There's shouldn't act, right? You can't do it. There's good enough. Then there's like the teeter between good and good enough, because good enough is like yeah, it gets the job done, like kind of
Right.
believable, whatever. And then there's good where you're like, that dude's interesting. And then there's like, you're a fucking killer actor. Like, and by the way, you every job is not consistent for me. Like, there's wrestling tournaments where I murder, and there's wrestling tournaments where I suck.
Right.
Same thing goes to acting. So once I got to a level where like, all right, I need to stick out. This is before everything changed because you're talking about hard copy submissions, dropping off headshots and resumes. I'm a 5'8", not so good looking. I'm an average, maybe above average, good looking guy. You're a little prettier than me, so you have that. And then there's martial. There's things
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
to
For sure.
stick
For sure.
out, which I'm just
Yeah.
average Joe. But then I look at like a Bruce Willis, who's not the prettiest man. He's not a Schwarzenegger or a Stallone who wrote his own shit. His personality stuck out. I needed to make sure no agents ever saw that. So I created a fake management company, and I would literally get the breakdowns. You know what that means, right? Getting the
Oh yeah. Yeah.
breakdowns. So I would get the breakdowns, see a job that fits me, that's like a realistic job, like a co-star. Like, we're looking for cop who's in any race, any ethnicity. And this is before they actually gave jobs to white guys at that stage.
Right.
This is before when they were actually giving those jobs to white
Yeah.
guys.
Exactly.
And I would just drop my headshot off. I would bike or drive to the casting office, drop my headshot and resume off, and have this management company called Loyal Management. And of course, I had Actors Access, LA Casting. I'd still submit digitally. And I started to book little bit roles, like speaking roles. I will also use my connections. And again, I'm not one of those networking, disingenuous actors who's like, I got a network. I'm a gregarious person. I think I'm an authentic person, and I acquired a lot of friends. And if I saw a role, for instance, one of my first real jobs, which I believe was technically a guest star, but because I had no reps, it was technically a co-star. I used to train Ben McKenzie. You know who that is?
No.
He was the lead of the OC. If you ever saw the OC, if you saw Gotham, that show Gotham, he
That
was
guy,
the lead
blonde
of
haired guy.
Gotham. Yeah, blonde haired guy, exactly.
Yeah.
So I used to train him. We were good friends, and I was also, the reason we were good friends is because he knew I didn't use him.
Right.
That said, I saw a role on the OC through the breakdowns. And I had a lot of turmoil about this. I'm like, shit, I don't want to like overstep my ground. But I believe we're good enough friends at that point that he trusted who I was as a human being. And apprehensively, I'm like, yo, I don't have any reps right now. And there's this role, it was a co-star, that you're casting for. It's a military role. And at the time I had a shaved head and I worked a lot of military jobs. I'm like, I would love to audition for it. And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And I made it easy for him. Here's my headshot. Here's my resume. Here's my contact information. I sent it to him. He responded, yeah, I forwarded it to Patrick, who's the casting director. I get a call. Hey, we want to schedule you to come read. My other buddy, who at the time was a very working actor, he coached me on the audition. I was astounded. I'm like, holy shit, like the shit that it took me 20 years to understand when you go into an audition, he knew at 20. He was already on like big TV shows at 20, and he was coaching me on it. So I go in, I fucking murder it. They call me back. I murder the callback. The producers are there. It's a producer session.
Yeah.
And then the casting director calls me. He's like, Jonathan, I just want to let you know you killed it. They loved you. And unfortunately, they're going to give the role to Steve-O. Remember Steve-O?
Yeah.
So it was like a smaller role, but they gave it to Steve-O. I'm like, fuck. Literally 3-4 months go by, and I'm biking to a client, and I get a call. Hey, this is Todd from Patrick's office, the assistant. Like, we just want to let you know that the producers remembered you from your audition 3 months ago, and they want to straight offer you a different role. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go.
I'll take it.
So that was my first like big TV job. Through me getting the breakdowns, asking Ben, going in for the first read, killing it, keeping my fucking head up when I didn't get the job, and 3 months later I got another job. And that was OC season 6 or some shit, season 5, the last season of the OC. It was a week-long co-star. If you see the role, you'll be like, nah, that's a motherfucking guest star. It was 3 separate scenes, but
Nice.
I was ecstatic. And then from there, once you get that confident, I just went on a fucking roll. I want to say that was 2005, 2006. At that point,
Yeah.
I had a manager, no agent, manager. I want to say I booked 10 co-stars that year. 10 co-stars.
Wow.
Maybe not 10 co-stars, maybe 10 gigs. So it was like between commercial, co-stars, and SAG films. That was, I used to write my goals out every year. I'm like, I want to book a SAG job a month. And I booked 10 out of 12 months. I booked a SAG job. So between SAG film, SAG TV show, or SAG commercial, I booked 10.
Yeah. Now,
and then
you
the
mentioned
role kept going. Go ahead.
Right. You mentioned somebody had coached you on the auditioning process.
Yes. Yes.
What did you figure out, or what were you taught or told right there that kind of switched everything?
So I'm a long-winded explainer, but I want to make sure to be efficient.
We're talking.
When I first moved to LA, I fell into this group of young Hollywood. My best friend when I first moved to LA was an actor named Paul Wazalewski. Paul Wazalewski is now Paul Wesley. He is he's the lead in Vampire Diaries.
Yeah.
We're not friends, but we're not in contact. That we talk like once a year. We're not like tight buds anymore. But he was my first friend, essentially my first like closest friend in LA.
Yeah.
At that time, he must have been 20 years old. I was probably like 23. We met on the set of the OC season 1, ironically. Even though I went back 5 years later to do season 5, season 1, he guest starred on seasons 1. I was an extra in the party scene.
Got it.
In that party scene, he was like the troublemaker, and the director wanted beef, and I was a fucking roughneck Long Island kid, and he was a roughneck New Jersey kid. And just naturally, when he was walking through the party, like he walked through me, and like we had this moment where he said something and I said something back, and I was an extra. The director kind of liked it.
Okay.
And he had me stay there, and they like in between, new setups, he wouldn't send me back with the extra holding. He'd sit me there, and then me and Paul started talking. Oh, where you from? Jersey. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I just moved here. I'm like, yo, I'm from Long Island. I just moved here. We kind of exchanged numbers. We shot the rest of that episode. I was still technically an extra. They dubbed over my motherfucking voice.
Oh, shit.
But because I'm only in LA at a year at that point. I'm 21 years old.
Yeah.
And all my friends saw me on that episode. Even though they dubbed over my voice, it was as if I had a fucking speaking role. I still was an extra. Yeah. And I used that video, of course, as, you do what you got to do. When I first moved out here, I used that video as a co-star. But me and Paul stayed in touch, and he invited. We bumped into each other again at Lucky Strike.
Yep,
that was a coincidence. And again, I didn't sweat him, and I think he got that. Like, I'm not, people are like, oh, you're an actor. I didn't give a fuck. He just saw me as a real dude. I saw him as a real dude. He's like, yo, you play poker? I'm like, yeah. He invited me to a couple of poker games, and then from there we just hit it off. He became like one of my closest friends. At that time, he was recurring on like 5 different shows.
Right.
So the answer to your question is, what I learned is some people get it. They look at the words. They don't see words. They see the bigger picture. And Paul saw the bigger picture. He's like, this is what everyone else is going to do for this scene. And he's like, this is what you got to do. And I remember that specifically. And it hit because there was a comedic moment in there that didn't have to be there. And he saw it, gave it to me. I implemented it. And I was like, oh, shit. And that's something I learned also from Jerry Burns in Justified. If you remember that character, he played Win Duffy. That motherfucker would find comedic moments in non-comedic parts of the scene. Right. And it was fucking brilliant shit. He was an NYU Tisch grad and a New York theater guy. So to answer your question, like to this day, Paul is still a savant when it comes to like story, and he's an artistic person. Yeah. But he saw shit that there's no way at that time I was like 23 or 24 years old, I couldn't see. And he saw it at a young age. And then He
Wow.
also he understood without trying to stick out, to be a little different, and also to be real.
Yeah, yeah.
Which a lot of actors know to be real, but to be different is something else.
Authentically different. Yeah. That's a
Authentically different. Yeah.
that's the whole game, and yet the hardest thing to
Very
figure
hard
out.
because authentic is hard. Authentic is
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, because you talk about that with stand-ups as well. I mean, you
Yeah, of
can't
course.
faking it on stage. People see right through that. And I hear a lot of stand-ups talk about, I'm so funny around my friends, and then you get on stage and your material is just not the best expression of your best self.
Right. When you're
And
trying,
yeah, you're trying. And I realized that when I started doing stand-up, it's like I write this material and I'm like, oh yeah, that's funny. And then I say it and there's nothing funny about it. And I'm like, I'm missing something. I'm not getting any laughs. What am I missing? And there's a disconnect somehow between what you're writing and the performance of it,
of course.
and expressing that authentic perspective that you have. But dude,
Yeah.
that auditioning thing is like killer. You were talking about theater. Like I had buddies in theater school, when I was in film school, and they left theater school with nothing to present. Like unless you were cast in the film school's like senior thesis,
Like
you didn't have a
MFA.
reel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't have
Yeah.
a reel, or unless you did stuff on your own, did independent work on your own, you didn't have a reel. It
Right.
makes no sense to me why a theater program wouldn't focus like your senior year on every student developing a 15-minute one-man show
Yeah. You're 100% right.
or a 15-minute stand-up material,
Yeah. Yeah.
just so that you can go ahead.
I think you're 100% right. And I mean, it was up to the individual student / actor or future actor to take the initiative. FSU, where I went, had a great film school. I actually took the initiative to be like, I saw, and again, this was like essentially birth of the internet, late 90s, where they're posting that they needed some actors for the film school for their programs. And luckily, I took the initiative to do that. Not a lot of theater guys did that, nor did they even let us know. Again, late 90s.
Yeah.
But I did do some stuff with the film school. I learned more in doing that film school, like setups and like how many fucking angles, how many times you're going to have to do the scene. They don't teach you that in theater.
Yeah.
But I came from nothing because I went to theater school. By the way, I wasn't a theater nerd. I was a jock in high school, and quick story on that. I was going to go into the military. I was ROTC.
Oh, yeah.
I was freshman year ROTC. I had no idea what I'd do. I was a shithead, angry kid, punk, drank, partied, got in a lot of fights. And then after a year, they put a piece of paper in front of you and saying, sign here, you owe us, we'll pay for your college, you owe us 4 active, 4 inactive. And I'm like, Luckily, I had the wits about me to realize maybe this military thing I got to hold off on now, because I was very insubordinate. I was like an angry person, and I was getting in like a fight a month. I got arrested a bunch of times at college. And
that's the funniest thing ever, because you're like one of the nicest guys. You know what I mean?
Now I am. I went
That's
through a
funny.
major change in my early 20s. Got very lucky. I stopped drinking. And anyway, point being is I decide, I'm like, what do I want to do with my life? I'm like, I like, since I was a kid, I'm like, I want to be a performer. I was a class clown, just like every other 80s kid. I grew up watching Van Damme and Schwarzenegger and Stallone, and I would like dress up and G.I. Joe type shit. And like, and it wasn't the big monologues that, I grew up 30 minutes off of Broadway. I'd never been to a Broadway show.
Right.
And it was more of the action-packed shit. So I'm like, I want to do fucking films and be a performer. So I'm like, that's what I want to do. And I became a theater program, went into the theater program because they had a great one. And it was it was second semester of my freshman year, I remember. And they're like, everybody bring a monologue tomorrow. It was like acting 1 or whatever the fuck the class was. And I literally am like, what's a monologue? I swear to God, I had no fucking idea what a monologue was.
Yeah.
And so I started from scratch, and I was very much the outcast. A lot of theater people Not that there's anything wrong with theater people. I love theater people.
Yeah.
But I was a punk jock in
Yeah.
a 90% everybody kind of understood, and I didn't understand shit. That said, everybody was very supportive and helpful. By the end of that semester, I was doing monologues, and the teacher at the end of the class said, like, look, if I had to give one A in this class, who do you think deserves the A? And everybody pointed to me
Oh,
because of
dang.
where I started to where I
Right.
got to. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really dedicated myself to like learning plays and scripts and reading and
Nice.
anyway, from
No, dude,
there,
totally get it.
yeah.
Dude,
So
I
were you
totally
a
get it.
theater major?
I was not a theater major. I did theater in high school
Okay.
for 1 year. I got picked for all the plays, but I could not stand the people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was a
No,
wrestler.
I mean, look, I get it. I get it. I
You
was a
know what I
wrestler
mean?
too. I get it.
So it's like, I'd rather be with these hardcore guys over here running hills.
It's
You know?
very different. It's very different people. It just
Yeah.
is. And I stuck out. I didn't really connect. That said, they did support me and did like root for me.
Yeah.
And then it was inconsequential.
Right.
Full disclosure, my senior year, my father was paying for college. He goes, if you're going to get a degree in something, get a degree in something that counts. So I'm going into my senior year. I was a theater major, business minor, and I went to the guidance office, and I was able to flip-flop it to get my major in business and minor in theater. All these other classes that are so stupid, like you have to be an usher, Latin American theater history, that it's going to help me zero.
Yeah.
So I took the classes that I needed to take with theater. I finished off and packed up the next. I really had to do 3 semesters because I did summer session to finish up and get my degree in business with a focus in real estate. So I got my degree with business, minor in theater, ended up going to LA 3 weeks after I graduated college. Sold all my shit in New York, moved to LA, started from scratch. The theater piece of paper did nothing other than now I knew what a monologue was.
Right, exactly.
Now I know what it is.
Dude, I felt as lost as you did. I went to film school. Well, I wrestled for the University of Oklahoma for a year and a half.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I got a couple injuries there. Did not see a future. We had a grad student come back. He had All-Americaned his senior year, and he was about to graduate with his master's degree. And he came back and talked to us, and he goes, "Hey guys, I know that you're putting your head down and you're trying as hard as you can for the next 4, maybe 5 years to become an All-American or a national champion. I did that. And when I go to job interviews, that's all I have on my resume. Everybody else has internships here, internships there, blah, 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 blah." And he was like, "I have none of that. So like, I'm getting my master's, but then I have to do all that stuff I should have done in my undergrad." And I was like, "Oh shit!" That was the first time I actually thought what was past wrestling. And I was like, I gotta refocus because, I don't see myself becoming a national champion right now. I see myself potentially becoming an All-American by my senior year, but not a national champion. Yeah. And I was like, but do I want that? It's either national championship or bust.
Right.
And I was like, well, then I got to switch paths. So I transferred out, went to a school in North Carolina and finished my film degree. And I was the only jock in the film program.
Totally related.
And I didn't really consider myself. I didn't really kind of portray that. I didn't go around like telling people, like, I was like, "Hey, we like movies. We're all here. We like movies, right?" And then I had a review with my professors my senior year. And they were like, "Well, you came in and we thought you were just a jock that didn't care about movies and, kind of proved that you like movies. So, we enjoy having you in the program." I was like, hold on, all you guys were thinking this whole time? Like, that explains everything. And then I'm like, okay.
Path, by the way. Similar path.
And then I'm like, they're like, "Do you have any questions for us?" And I'm like, "Yes." All right. So my focus was on screenwriting. How do I get an agent to sell my screenplays? And they're like, "Oh, you just gotta network." And I was like, hold on. I thought this was what this senior review was about, like kind of setting me up on a path. And they're like, "Yeah, you just gotta meet people and, kind of," and I was like, I'm on my own now. Like
Yeah.
that, I thought I was going to get something at the end of this, like some tidbit information on who to connect with and like a connection to an agency. And it's like none of that. And so I was like, well, fuck it. I gotta get out there,
Yeah.
you know? So
Let me, because we could talk about this forever, which is good. Let me fast forward to your original about Roadhouse, which
yeah,
is a
yeah,
blessing. So what you didn't know is I moved here in 2022. I moved to Florida. The blessing and about COVID was it let us scatter.
yeah.
I'm sure you live where now?
I'm in Sherman Oaks.
And how do you like it? How is I don't know how Sherman Oaks is. I know it's more family, but is it okay? Is it safe? Is it
It's fine. Yeah. I've
okay?
been here ever since I got here. Yeah.
We were in West Hollywood, like Melrose, Fairfax area, and as you know, I have 2 kids, and
Yeah.
we had to leave. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't a question. It was just there's value of life, and then there's also responsibility of a parent, and it's not just the crime and violence. It's also
Ideology.
energy and ideology. That was what I was going to say next, but energy and ideology. The reason I emphasize the energy is because I'm reinforced every time I go back, which it's harder to see when you leave there. When you live there, excuse me. When you live there, you kind of get numb to the aesthetic of tent cities, of congestion, graffiti, trash on the ground. And I get there's less of this in Sherman Oaks, but it truly does numb you out when you go to Whole Foods and it's just so congested and you're trying to find a place to park and everybody's trying to make money because it's such a high cost of living and there's so many people. The hostility, the anxiety, that energy, you get numb to it when you're there. But when you leave and you get greenery and you get space and you get people just like strewing by and like some people are rich, some people are poor, and most people don't really give a fuck. They're not trying so hard to get rich or get famous or get whatever.
Yeah. Right.
That energy, it's palpable. Like you taste it. When you go back to LA after living out of that, you sense it everywhere. Not just the visible, which you get numb to too, not just the smells, not just the physical traffic, but the energy. And I'm not saying this to disparage LA. I'll never forget and love some of the best times of my life in LA. The longest place I've ever lived on the planet was Los Angeles. I lived there from 21 to 41. I became a man there. But that energy is not good. And I tell this out of all the other stuff, because we could talk about the crime, the ideology, the DA, and all that bullshit, politics.
Yeah.
That comes second. The energy is one because it's real. So living there, it was my wife's from Florida. We came to visit December 2020 at the height of the lockdown. And we're like, what the fuck? The world is open?
Yeah.
And it's pretty normal. Yeah, some people wearing masks, some people didn't. Here's the big difference. Someone who's wearing a mask, looing at someone who's not wearing a mask, they're like, I don't give a fuck what you do, just stay away from me. Vice versa. Someone who's not who's not wearing a mask, who sees someone that is wearing a mask, I don't give a fuck what you do, just don't tell me what to do.
Right.
It was a beautiful thing where people are very much in their own, like, the idea in Florida in general is do whatever you want to do, but don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And that's on both sides, whether you're Republican, Democrat, whether you're pro-mask, put that to everything, gay, straight, whatever.
Yeah.
Now we're here, and her brother's a broker, and he's like, let me just show you some properties. And now keep in mind, COVID was a progression. Everything skyrocketed at a certain point. This is at the beginning of the skyrocketing prices nationwide. Interest rates were still low. People were initially really scared about what to do with their property and real estate in the beginning of COVID. But at a certain point, everywhere in the nation, it's skyrocketed. Mostly in Florida and Texas, and Arizona and Nevada. Right at the beginning of that skyrocket, he shows us this house. And it was on essentially half an acre, pool, cul-de-sac, on a canal, huge fucking lot, almost half an acre. And the place was a shithole. Like it hadn't been redone since the 80s. It was like older people lived there. And it needed work. But I'm like, wow. And I'm like, how much is this? And when he told me the price, I'm like, what the fuck? So then when it just got, I'm like, let's just peruse. And he showed us some other properties. Anyway, we didn't do anything. We come back to LA. It's now early January 21. My wife and I are depressed because of coming back to LA. Again, we came back, 2 kids. We're still height of lockdown. Vaccines are coming out. The city became fucking rats and Nazis. If you need your card, we need to see our papers. And like people unfriending people who didn't get vaccinated. Not saying I did or didn't get vaccinated. I'm not divulging any of that information. But people lost friends because they were so brainwashed that if you didn't get vaccinated, you were evil, and they unfriended you as a human being, which to this day.
That's the kindest thing you should do.
Yeah, absolutely.
All out of the goodness of my heart, I have to unfriend you.
And it's so funny because the jiu-jitsu community kind of had a little one up on everyone because, you know, most of the true jiu-jitsu guys, they couldn't handle not training. So 4 to 6 weeks after COVID started in March of 2020, everybody's like, fuck that. We're going to take the risk and we're going to train. So we're all in close quarters rolling with everybody. Some guys get it, some guys don't. But the big secret is the jiu-jitsu community kept going and understood, okay, we're fine. We're safe. So that we had a little leg up on everyone. But
most of the jiu-jitsu community was keeping up with alternative media sources.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. That said,
where all the false information is.
Yeah, exactly. The misinformation news sources. So, unbeknownst to me, my wife is in communication with her brother and essentially contacts the seller of that original house that we saw and starts negotiating on the side. And long story short is, we get the house for a fucking bottom dollar. And she's like, babe, I really want, and I got it. And in my head, I already had the Texas properties. And I'm like, okay, this is the deal. We'll get this house. And again, this was back when interest rates were 3%.
Yeah.
We'll get this house. And we had the down payment because it was so little. Because we needed to move no matter what. And the properties in LA for a piece of shit was 1.1. And I'm talking about 1,500 square foot in Van Nuys. You're looking at $1 million.
Yeah.
And we needed to move. So I'm like, this is the deal we're going to make. We're going to buy this house because she got a great number. But it's 50-50. It's either going to be an investment property, or if things don't go well here, we can't find something here that's viable, we'll move there. But we got to give it at least 6 months because I don't believe on impulse. I believe on take your time. That was the deal we made. We bought the house. We got it for $420. That's a crazy fucking, a 2,700 square foot, 4.3 on half an acre with a pool on a cul-de-sac in a good neighborhood.
Did
$420K. Now keep in mind, in Los Angeles, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to scrape $1 million to get a down payment for the $1 million, 25, 30% down. How the fuck am I going to scrape that to $300K together for a piece of shit that I'm not even excited to move into?
Yeah.
So now we got the house. It's a little bit of a load off. Like, okay, we got a little safety net. In that 6 months, and again, Melrose, Fairfax, we had 3 murders within a mile of where my kids play. 3 murders. Jeez. That young girl, some people know the story, some people, that young girl on La Brea, it's a very sad story. She was a beautiful, pretty girl. She got stabbed to death by a homeless person. The kid in the shoe store on Melrose, that was a viral video. Fucking young Mexican kid. He was 16 years old, shot the employee in broad daylight. Everybody saw. Fucking poor kid.
Jeez.
And then there was a third one. And that's not including the Rolex watches, the gunshots, the home invasions, not including any of that.
Right.
The losing of friends, my wife got fired from her job. She was a hairstylist and she couldn't get vaccinated. She had an autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
And she couldn't get vaccinated. And they're like, well, our hands are tied. West Hollywood won't allow anyone without a vaccine card in our store. So you can't come here anymore.
Wow.
All signs said, get the fuck out. And I do believe that the universe was looking out for us. And we did. We fucking left. We left. We made the decision that summer. And in that summer, so we closed February 21. It was March, May, June of 21 that we decided to go to Florida. In that 6 months, the house had gone up 35%.
Dude, awesome.
You know, we're looking at on Zillow. We're
6
like,
months.
6 months. It took us we didn't go right away. We waited. We didn't leave until March of 22.
Yeah.
Because it took a while to get all your shit and eggs in a basket and fucking get accommodations there. We had a major renovation ahead of us, which was a whole nother story. We won't get into it. But we left. It was really sad. And the universe was very, let me know. We could be here.
Yeah.
I moved in March of 22. I booked my biggest guest star as a top of show guest star on NCIS, which is a unicorn of a show because there's 21 seasons. You get syndication, still network, still paying top dollar for guest stars. They don't do any of the bullshit streaming stuff.
Yeah.
And I lived in Florida and I fucking booked it. The other guest star, who coincidentally we knew through other people, he's a working actor. He flew from Texas. He left LA too. He's like, I got the fuck out. He flew from Texas. Casting didn't know. Everything was virtual. We auditioned virtually, self-tape. The callback was a Zoom. Booked, flew out, bam. Right. Then after that, I get a call from Steve Brown.
Yeah.
I'm in Florida at this point. I'm pretty like, I'm like, shit, I could still work from Florida. I really wasn't sure what was going to happen with my acting career. But already the business has been so fucked for a year and a half from COVID anyway. Shit just started working again. That everybody was in like, what the fuck's going on with the industry? Yeah. You know, we're now in. Go ahead.
Just to hold that story, what was the plan if the acting was not going to continue after this move?
Great question. That was in my hands. So it was just at what rate? The acting was going to continue. It just, there's Atlanta and then there's a tiny market in Florida. It's just that I would always pursue. And it's very, like, I got into stoicism. It's very much like, what's out of my control is out of my control. I made the decision to move to Florida. That was the best decision for my mental health, my happiness, and my kids and my wife's safety, happiness, and mental health. Never thinking twice about that. What's going to happen with my career is I'm either going to be some fucking small beans wannabe Florida actor, because there's a market here, and you know, doing fucking whatever it had to be, like the once in a year ultra low budget. Yeah. Hopefully, and I was really putting a lot of faith into the Atlanta market, which is huge. And if it got even, because it hadn't been great since 2016, my career started to decline. The way that I like to say it is, I don't scapegoat. I'm not a victim. I don't know why. Ironically, right after I had kids, right after I finished Justified, my career declined. I was going from being a working actor, making a very good top 3% salary of SAG, to struggling. And it was very hard and very sad. I was depressed. I was very a little victim-y, and I changed my perspective after 2 years of being a bitch. But, you know, can we talk about things? The thing that we can talk about is, yes, there was a window of opportunity that existed for white actors. Yep. That window went from here to here. Yeah. About 30%. It closed 70%. Yeah. And that's my assessment. It's not something I'm complaining about. It's something that we could say that every casting director, writer, director, actor, we all know it happened. Yeah. Right? Exactly. There was the same amount of white actors, if we are going to call us a product or label us, that the same amount of people going from this block of work to now this block of work. Mm-hmm. And we know, everybody knows. Some people speak about it, some people don't. I don't think anyone denies it. It just got harder. But guess what? Acting's hard. I'm 5'8". If I was 5'10", I would get booked more jobs, especially with my aesthetic. Like, I look like a meaty, beefy guy. Half the roles I go in for are like tough guy roles. Hey guys, I'm fucking 5'8". On Justified, I almost didn't go to the audition because it was for a bodyguard. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm gonna go against fucking. And at the time, I was only 30 years old for the audition. Right. I almost skipped the audition for Justified because I didn't think I was big enough. And I go in, and sure enough, there's 40-year-old, 6'2", big fucking boys.
Right.
At the time I was a purple belt, my lines were authentic. I didn't try to be anything.
Yeah.
When we for my audition in my scene, it was authentic. I wasn't trying to be tough. I was tough. That was why I got the job. And I was like, you know, my years of booking at the time, it was a co-star. I started off on Justified as a recurring co-star. I didn't become a guest star till the final season. Anyway, back to
you got the call.
That window of opportunity.
Okay, yeah, that yeah.
It was something that sucked. And I again, maybe it was that why my career slowed down, and maybe it was I was going into auditions more stressed out because I had a kid to feed. Who the fuck knows? But it did get harder, and now I'm in Florida, and stoicism, right? It's out of my control. I'm gonna do what I do, put the power of I believe in myself. I love to act, and that means whether I get paid for it or not. You know, even if that means doing like short films in fucking Florida. But I also am like, let's see. I did believe that self-tapes weren't going anywhere. And so far I'm right. And I was able to self-tape, book the NCIS, and that was like proof, okay, I could fucking work here. Yeah. Now, ironically, so that was shot in August, like August to September, because it was like a 10-day shoot. So then I came back to Florida from shooting NCIS in LA. And like, I want to say a couple weeks go by, and I get a call from my boy Steve Brown. Now, here's a back door, right? The NCIS was your traditional, my manager got me the audition. I had to read for it through the casting director, Jason Kennedy, who has cast me before and other stuff, so he knew my work. Steve Brown calls me. He's like, dude, I got a question for you. Would you be interested in audition? I'm here in Dominican Republic right now. Would you be interested in auditioning for a stunt acting job? I go, sure. I'm always sure. First off, I love Steve Brown. He's my homie. I would love to work with him. Steve Brown has busted his butt to be one of the top stunt coordinators in LA, in Hollywood. And I knew he was working on Roadhouse. And I'm a yes to everything kind of guy. Like, I have no ego. You know, some people be like, no, you did four and a half seasons of Justified. You can't do stunt work. And some people are assholes. And I'm like, nah, fuck it. Let's work. Especially since the business has been through spin cycle. So he sends me 3 scenes. 2 of them are like bigger role scenes. Like, I could tell you what they were in the movie, but inconsequential. And one of them was for this bar scene that had like 4 scripted lines. And I don't have a network here. So my brother-in-law, I rushed to his, he's like, get this to me as soon as possible. So I rushed to my brother-in-law's house. I'm like, yo, can you tape me for this? He has no idea what he's doing. So we tape it. I do the first 2 scenes because they're legitimate, like 1.5-page scenes. And then the third one, which I was pretty much under the impression they just wanted those other 2 scenes. They're probably already cast. They just want to see me act.
Right.
And then I did this 4-line scene. And I send that, and then along with my demo reel, which was pretty extensive because I've had 18 years of legitimate work. And then I also had a stunt reel now. I had that as a fight reel just from the years of work of all the military stuff, fight scenes I've had, and wrestling movies I've done. And I had a little compilation. I send all that to Steve. I don't think about it. 3 days later, he's like, yo, you're in the mix. He's like, it's you or 2 other people. He's like, do you have your passport ready? I'm like, yeah. Look at my passport. It's expired. I'm like, fuck. Long story short, long story long. I had to fucking fly to Puerto Rico. Don't ask me why. Fly to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Renew my passport. Fly back to Florida. Actually, no, I had to wait. I'm like, holy shit. My passport's expired. I'm going through all this. I drive down to Miami. They will not see you. The way the passport office worked post-COVID, they will not see you. You have to make an appointment. They won't let you walk in. You could try to bribe the guys at the door. They will not let you in. Steve, I'm like fucking stressing out. Steve's like, yo, you got the job. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I walked it over to the fucking producer director. You're the guy. I vouched for you. I'm like, fuck yeah.
Nice.
I'm on the phone with the U.S. Department of whatever. They're like, look, the next available appointment is either in Arkansas or Puerto Rico tomorrow. I'm like, that can't be possible. I'm like, the next appointment at your Miami office is in 2 weeks from now. I'm leaving in a week, mind you, to go to DR, less than a week.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't understand. I'm explaining to her. She's like, honestly, this happens. The only thing you could do is go to Arkansas or Puerto Rico tomorrow. I booked a ticket. Puerto Rico is close to South Florida. I booked a ticket, went to San Juan, got my appointment, went there, blah, blah, blah. It was a fucking stressful headache. Got my passport that day. Yeah. Now, again, there was a lot of shit you had to do, but got the passport, flew back to Florida. I had to do all my COVID stuff. Got to get tested, get all your COVID. Blah, blah, blah. It was a very high stress situation. I had all my flight information, whatever. It was like within 6 days of Steve calling me, I had to go to Dominican Republic. And again, you had to fill out all this stuff through production, all this stuff for COVID, actually go get your tested, your negative test.
Yeah.
Send all that, get my passport, unbeknownst to Steve and production that I didn't have my passport, got my passport, got the job, went there. Now on set, I'm an actor, right? I'm not typically stunt. Now I know why Steve's as good as he is. These motherfuckers don't fuck around.
Yeah.
When you're on location, and I've done big production films like studio films before, I did American Sniper. We flew out to Morocco, first class accommodations. When you're not on set, you're chilling, you're fucking in the hotel, you're exploring. Not when you're with Steve's crew. When you're with Steve's crew, you're in a soundstage, you're doing stunt choreography every hour of every day. 9 hours a day. So they have you, because you're on a weekly. So you're fucking, you're getting in a knife fight. If Jake Gyllenhaal thinks that the knife is getting too close to him, he's going to say something, you're going to get fired. And if it looks fake, if it looks like you're faking it, this Garrett, who's the second unit director, and Doug Lyman, they're going to fucking fire you. So I'm like, I got to fucking, 1, make it look real, and 2, make it be safe. I got to make it look real and make it be safe. We're a little over time. Is that okay?
Dude, yeah.
Okay. And I'll try to get through this quick, but it is a fucking cool story.
No, I love it. Keep going, man.
Steve's not my friend at this point. He's my fucking drill instructor. And the other stunt guys that have worked with Garrett and Steve, Garrett Warren is Steve's partner boss. Yeah. They know how tight of a ship they run. They're coming off of Avatar. So they're like, they perk up when they get there. It's very militaristic. Steve is a different persona. Like, no, that's wrong. Like the way he talks to you, it's very much, and he's an All-American wrestler, 3-time All-American wrestler. That's the connection. Like there's a reason he's as good as he is.
Right.
And we're going just fucking, and that choreography is a lot of physicality. Anyway, on the day, now we get to the fucking location. Here's my big scene. 4 scripted lines. Doug Lyman, we're talking about, he's the director, very established, famous director. And, I've been on big sets. I've worked with really big directors and big actors. So I'm cool, which I think that's another reason why Steve put me in this. I think he could have tried to get a stuntman who wouldn't have had the acting experience nor the communication skills to deal with bigger personalities, even though stunt guys are great, but in the end, we're skilled at what we do. And then simultaneously, he wouldn't have been able to use an actor and actually do these fight scenes because generally actors like, not get my stuntman or I'm not doing that.
Exactly.
I need a bump, So it was very symbiotic to get me. I was the guy for the job. Yeah. Like when Steve was really smart to get me, and I was really happy that Steve thought of me. In the end, Doug's like, look, I want you to, you're the problem. Say this, like get the band all riled up, like you suck, get off the stage. He had me ad-lib all this shit. I'm like, okay. So I'm ad-libbing all this fucking, get off the fucking stage, you suck. This ain't fucking garage band. He's letting me give me free reign. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah. So we get that. Then now we're moving on to the next portion where the other guy in the bar throws a beer bottle at me. And now we have a little confrontation. Now keep in mind, this is different than what's kind of scripted. It got elongated.
Right.
I'm like, okay. So he's like, all right, I'm going to need some time because we're going to cut to Jake and Lucas. So Jake Gyllenhaal and Lucas Gage, that's the scene. The protege taking the note from the mentor, hey, he's got a knife, and him succeeding.
Yes. They
needed some time. So it was like, why don't you guys like get in each other's face and, just do whatever you guys do. And this is where I have, one, my acting experience, and two, my life experience. I was a fucking punk. I got in a lot of fights.
Yeah.
This guy throws a beer bottle at me. I turn around like, and we've been rehearsing all week in the soundstage. This guy, David Warren, he's a fucking G, and he's just a stunt guy, but he's real. Like, he doesn't talk too much. He's a big black dude, very skilled martial artist. And I could tell he was humble. Like, I didn't talk about myself. He didn't know I was a black belt, and he didn't talk about himself. But he knew, he's like, oh, this guy's trained. And I knew, oh, this guy's a badass and trained. But we were cool, but we weren't, like, that cool.
Yeah.
So we get up in each other's faces and just fucking at them. Yo, I'm fucking scared of you, bitch. Get the fuck out of my face, bitch. Well, what are you going to do? And it was just authentic. It was real. Like, the way that we were talking take after take, and then the physicality, and just taking Doug notes, make it fucking ugly. They didn't want it too choreographed. They wanted it ugly. I'm a grappler. He's a martial artist. We fucking move around. We're bumping into shit, take after take. It was like rolling for 4 hours, because just that part took 4 hours. Makeup had to come in between takes. I cut my head, glue my head shut, put makeup on it. You know, it wasn't like a stitches thing, but I definitely a pretty big scratch. Yeah. To not every layer of skin where it's just falling out, but to where it's bleeding and it's noticeable. You can kind of see, if you go back and watch, you'll see I have a thing on my head. Yeah. What fucking actor is going to deal with that? Actor's going to cry, but I didn't say a fucking word. I was a pro. I was a fucking pro, and they were loving me. They're like, Jonathan, they had a big microphone on set. There's a bunch of actors. Jonathan, you okay? You good to go? I'm like, yeah, let's fucking go.
Dude, I got goosebumps, man. I fucking love that.
All right, so now, and all this ad-libbing, ton of ad-libbing that wasn't scripted. Mm-hmm. So I don't even know how much, but we said a lot of shit. So now there comes to the real things that were scripted, where Lucas Gage comes, I pull the knife, fuck you, motherfucker, and then I get my arm broken. This is my big moment, because now I'm like, I pull a fucking knife, I have to fucking go for the stab. Jake catches it mid-stab, breaks my arm. Yeah. This is the scary part, where it has to look real and I can't fuck up and hurt anyone.
Right. And
dude, and it's to take the punch. So Lucas Gage punches me in the face. First take, we do it.
Yeah.
And Garrett, who's like the main, what the fuck was that? Like that. Like, and this is first take. I'm like, I guess kind of nervous. And I'm like, again, this isn't my forte. Like, taking punches is a stunt guy. Yeah. First take, and what the fuck is that? And again, that's not typically how acting directors talk, but this is a stunt director. Yeah. And I'm like, all right. I kind of like brushed it off. I'm like, I got this. Do it again. Bam! That's it. That's the one. And then we did take after take, the punch. So there was this one specific take where I'm like, and I go after him. He pushes me. I go to stab him. He punches me in the face. Everyone on set's like, after you cut, Jonathan, you okay? I'm like, yeah. And like, everybody thought I got hit. I'm like, no, it didn't hit. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, it didn't hit. And it was just, the timing was right. It was it wasn't a choreographed punch. It was a real punch. It just, whatever reason, it looked so real from every angle. That was the take they used. And that.
Jake punching you.
No. This was Lucas Gage, the blonde hair kid.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Jake never punches me. He breaks my arm.
He just breaks your arm. That's right.
Yeah. So everyone loved it. Garrett was like, dude, he loved, like, Doug loved it. Anyway, and I was like, fuck. Nice. We got that, moved on. Now it's the knife scene. I pulled the knife, go to do it, and it was pretty cool. We talked. Jake was a lot more chill than they were. Like, they were just kind of scaring me, but he was more chill. Like, yeah, okay, we'll do it here. Like, we did like a little bit of talking.
Yeah.
A little bit of like, like touch kind of thing. Because we did half of it with his body double, where it was close up on the hand, and half of it were him.
Right.
So we already done all the close up stuff with his double, to where it was a lot more flagrant.
He just needed a little bit of a feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once we got to that part, I felt relaxed. I actually felt like the pro, me and Jake, like I was kind of talking with Jake more like, this is how we did it. Because I was the one doing it with his stunt double.
Yeah.
And now that we're doing the wide with him, he needed my, like, what was the timing and the place. And
you're a great teacher. You're a trainer.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah. From years of doing jiu-jitsu and coaching. But it worked.
Movement. You can speak movement.
And I could speak movement. It worked. Everyone was happy. It was a 9-hour day. I was sweating balls, exhausted, bloody from my face, but so elated at how I like felt.
That's awesome.
Okay, so to quick cut to that, that was like over a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I don't tell many people about this because this is a stunt contract I'm on. I have been in the business long enough to know that just because we shot it, I could get most of my shit could get cut out, and I have no idea what the scene's gonna look like. I could look like an extra in it, or just like a typical stunt guy, like maybe a line or two.
Yeah.
And I was mic'd. They did have the boom, but live music was there, so I just assumed like good chances a lot of the stuff is gonna cut out.
Right.
Long story longer. All this time goes by. The strike happens. I never get called in for ADR, which I thought was a problem. Like, fuck. I had another buddy who was in the film. His name's Catfish, big black dude in the movie. He's one of like the main henchmen. He had already done ADR. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, they cut out most of my shit. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Got paid. I got paid well because I got to work on it for 2 weeks because it wasn't just that scene. I got to do some other scenes as a stunt guy. So it was on a weekly. And it was a pleasure to be in it. The strike ends, I want to say early December. A week later, I get an email. Hey, Jonathan, this is so-and-so from Roadhouse Production. We need to have you come in for ADR. I'm like, yes. Awesome. This is this past December. I go in to do ADR, and I think, as you know, when you do ADR, you see the picture finish. So they finished, they picture locked it, but now they're working on the sound. I'm like, and then they have all of your dialogue printed out for you to dub over just to get them clean. And I'm like, holy shit, they kept everything. My 4 lines turned into a page and a half of dialogue.
Right.
And
a lot of improv.
Ad lib and improv with Doug Lyman's suggestions and like encouragement to say this, do this, say this. And we made it real. And they kept everything. So now I'm like, oh shit, I'm in this fucking movie. All right, good, great. So now I start telling people about it. Guys, I'm in this movie. Then, so we're on a group chat, like with all our tight-knit friends of jiu-jitsu guys that you know, that Steve's like, hey guys, the trailer for Roadhouse is out, check it out. Johnny, you did a great job. I'm in the movie for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I timed it. I have the cut of it. I'm in the trailer, like a minute and a half trailer. I'm in the trailer for like 12 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm all over the trailer. It's very atypical. I'm like, oh shit. Fuck yeah. So now they're using the stuff that I did in that to promote the film. It felt very good. Steve on the side texted me, dude, thanks again. You fucking killed it. Really proud of you. Really, really, awesome. Really good work. I felt so good. And then sure enough, when the movie came out, I've done a ton of work in 20 years. Like not with an ego way, with the way of like just used to doing like shows, like from my first OC extra job that I got dubbed over to 32 episodes of Justified, to a scene in American Sniper, an Oscar nominated film. I've done a ton of work, but this, I've never been reached out. The opening weekend, I've never been reached out to more than this film, which is weird because people I haven't talked to since high school, people that I haven't, just random jiu-jitsu folks through the years, walking my kids to school, parents that I never talked to, but you just see each other say good morning. Hey, I gotta ask you something. Like,
I saw the trailer.
Were you in Roadhouse? And I'm like, and in Florida, that's not typical. Like, we live in this normal suburb. They don't know, like, the actors are weird for them. Like, holy shit, I know that guy. Same thing, my gardener. He's like, dude, Jonathan, can you come here for a second? I'm like, yeah. And we always shoot the shit, me and my gardener. I've been talking to him for like a year and a half. He's like, I gotta ask you something. I'm like, what's up? He's like, were you in Roadhouse? I'm like, yeah. So it's just, I never felt this much notoriety, even though it was a small gig. But that just shows how many eyes got on Amazon Prime. So yeah, that was it. Right after that, again, the universe kept right after the movie came out. So recently, I booked my first Florida job. So I have a Florida agent, and it was a SAG modified low budget, shot in Miami. It's a Tubi film. Not a huge budget. You get like $450 a day, but I had a nice supporting role. And then I booked a fucking national commercial 2 weeks ago. So it's like, and this is out of Miami. There is a market here. I haven't broke my cherry in Atlanta. That is my goal. That is my objective. My next job will be a significant theatrical job out of Atlanta. That's my next thing. But yeah, I'm working more here in the last 2 years that I've lived here than the last 4 that I lived in LA. So wow. 2017 to 2021 versus 22 to 24, working more in Florida. And I think that is a testament to, one, the universe kind of like letting me know you're good, I got you. 2, this was the right move. Like, this was the thing that I was supposed to do. This was the path. It was the smartest thing to do. And not to say that like bumps will come. Bumps come. You know, I've had some tragedies. I lost a friend. I'm Jewish. I'm half Israeli. I'm without getting political, October 7th really rocked me, my family. I got family in Israel. And to see what's happening in our country and the world is fucking, you know, you might hate Jews at this point. I don't know. I don't know if you do or don't. I don't care. But it's crazy to me
how many hate people, Jews by now.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me how many people hate the Jews and are so fucking manipulated by media, and it's concerning, and it weighs on me and a lot of other Jewish people. But you know, it hasn't been all roses. But I could tell you, I'm a happy person here. My mindset of stoicism. I don't need acting. I don't need it. I don't need money. I don't need it. If it comes, great. I like to be goal oriented and hit my goals, but it doesn't make me a successful person if I do. What makes me successful? I'm happy. My kids are healthy. My marriage is healthy. Still in love with my wife. Very, very. We have a imperfect but great relationship.
Yeah.
And that's it. The other thing is I focus a lot on this.
Sure. Right.
I haven't talked about this. One of the main reasons I came on is to promote this motherfucker.
Yeah. But, yeah. How's that going?
It's status quo is the answer. It is. Okay. It's a bit of a headache for me because I put a lot of work into it, and I sell around 250 units a month consistently, which at $30 a pop, I'm grossing like 70 grand a year on an idea and a product I invented that I get reinforced weekly with emails and messages and reviews from customers, how much they love my product and how groundbreaking and helpful it is for their fingers. Yeah. But I haven't gotten to the next level. And again, this is trial by fire. I'm a new entrepreneur, even though I have an entrepreneurial mind. This is still a side hustle for me, and I would really like to get it to the next level. Long story short, I got some product here. Athletes, as you know, we break our fingers, we jam our fingers. All we've ever had was taping our fingers together. And as a jiu-jitsu guy, I didn't like it. It always fell off. I wasn't even able to close my fist all the way. And it just was really annoying to sit there before and after and tape them. And I invented this product called Graps that it conjoins your fingers together with compression. And that's the glove, right?
It's perfect.
So I'm really happy with it. It really, I'm proud of it is the word. I have a utility patent on this, which took 3 years and a lot of money. And nothing like this exists. It's mine. Like, I'm proud of that. And I started selling these in 2017. I'm on Shopify. I'm on Amazon. I have my own Shopify store, getgraps.com, spelled like that, getgraps.com. And then I'm on Amazon, Walmart Marketplace, eBay, fucking Etsy, and a couple of distributors overseas. I sell worldwide. And like I said, they move. And the vast majority of customers love it. It's obviously not for everyone. Some people think this is weird. The fitting is that's my biggest obstacle. You know, fingers and hands are so many variables. Finger length, finger fatness, the circumference, and then some fingers are really short and stubby. Some wrists are thicker. Some wrists are thinner. So it's such a fucking headache getting just, you know, small, medium, large, extra large is not enough to hit all those variables. Right. So some people have sizing issues, but other than that, they work. It's definitely better than tape. You get the healing benefits of compression. So elbow sleeves, regular compression gloves for arthritis for older people. Those studies are proven on what compression technology does for joints and arthritis. So now you have that on top of the buddy taping functionality. You're protecting the injured joint. Let's say you injured this with a non-injured joint, but you're still having the mobility. And the difference with that is now you can make a full fist. You have full mobility. You pull it right on, pull it right off. It's never slipping off.
Yeah.
Where tape, it's going to come off, this, that, the other. So, I try things and fail. I'll hire marketing companies. I'll drop fucking – when I spend more money on marketing, my company loses money. When I spend nothing and do less, I make a slight profit. So it's really hard. And again, I can't put 100% of my time into it. So, but it's a job I don't get paid for because I get the benefits of having an S corporation and I'm able to expend certain things. But technically we're at a loss because of the expensing. But I'd like to take it to another level. Like there's no reason I shouldn't be in some stores, and I'm proud of it. It'll get there. I'm just still I'm the turtle on this one. I'm slowly progressing, and I'm okay with that. Just like my acting career.
For sure, dude. I admire you a lot for everything that you're doing.
Appreciate that.
Because I mean, a lot of like think about this. Like, if you were to give your acting self advice from 23, like you wouldn't. I mean, I don't even know if any of us would actually take our own advice, because it would be so counter to what we're actually thinking the path looks like.
That's true.
That
is true. I think the biggest thing I would tell anyone is focus on being a good person and a happy person, because I think one comes with the other. And I was very lucky because I went through a major transition before I became a true professional actor. I told you I used to be an asshole and a very angry, unhappy person. I'm not saying I became a very happy person at 21, but I started the path of being a happier person. And that came from being a better person. And I started giving back to my community. I volunteer. I befriended people as opposed to looking at them as enemies or competitions. A lot of actors are so insecure. They see enemy or competition, where I see friend and potential mentor. Yeah. And, that's what I noticed with this young actor group when I first got thrown in. Because what I didn't say is hanging out with all these successful young actors. And I'm talking about, I used to hang out with Aaron Paul back when he was like a fucking struggling, he was Shane West's sidekick. Like when we'd hang out with Shane West, and he was like a big shot back in the early 2000s. And he had this friend who was like an up and coming actor, this nerdy kind of skater kid, Aaron Paul. And we'd shoot the shit. He, he became Aaron Paul. I used to hang out with Chris Pratt back in the day. By the way, he was the realest motherfucker. Out of all those guys, he was the realest motherfucker. So he kept it real. Chris Pratt's a G. We hadn't talked in years and years, but I'm sure if we saw each other, be like, Johnny K, what up, kid? And he did keep it real. I actually did bump into him at Chateau Marmont one day.
Oh, wow.
After he was on Parks and Rec at the time. So we were friends back in like 03, 04 when he was in Everwood. Him and Emily Van Camp used to date. They lived together. Emily used to have us over for dinner, and all these other actors. And me and him would shoot the shit about wrestling because he used to wrestle. We talk about UFC and wrestling, and he wasn't like the other actors. And then him and Emily broke up, and he didn't have a lot of friends, and he reached out to me. We hung out a bunch of times. He talked about coming to Jiu-Jitsu Academy with me. He never ended up coming. He started dating Anna Forrest. I never heard from him again. Yeah. Saw him at years later at Chateau Marmont. And I have a fucking tray of champagne. And he's like, Johnny K. I'm like, what's up, kid? How you doing? He's like, dude, you got to come watch the fights at my place. I'm like, hell yeah, man. I'll make it happen. We never did. But it was cool. Like, he kept it real. Like, he gets it. He came from nothing. So all these people I came up with, it's really cool. Like, I kind of forget about my history. But, Ben McKenzie, Adam Brody, Shane West, Paul Wesley, Aaron Paul, Chris Pratt, Justin Baldoni, all these guys that were like became very big. I call them like teeny boppers, like CW kind of celebrities. Yeah. But a lot of them looked at each other kind of like friends, but competition. Yeah. I was always in awe of all of them. I was always like, oh shit, and the little engine that could. And to this day, like Kit's doing well. He's writing a script. I fucking know he's going to be successful in the script world. Kevin Mack, we met at Chateau Marmont, and he was an up-and-coming actor, whatever, and he's fucking killing it right now. You know,
Nice.
the amount of my friends, you never met my buddy Will Hirschfeld, but Will, he came to Jog a couple times.
Okay.
He's fucking murdering it in the producer world. Like murdering it, making six figures, big money, producing big films. So I'm proud of all my friends, and like I don't see it as competition, but the big thing I would say is be a good person to make you a happy person. Focus on that, and then question what your success is. Because back when I'm 23, my success was Bruce Willis status.
Yeah.
No way I'd want to be there. Really question what fame is, what it does to you. Obviously, fame today versus fame 2003 is two different worlds, but people also don't understand the perversion of fame, the negative aspect of fame, and they're really bad. I could attest to it. A little bit of fame is great. I love, did you know Sean Patrick Flannery? Like, did you ever get to roll with him?
I never got to roll with him.
We all came up. He was like a mentor. He gave me my black belt. It's a perfect level of fame. Like, he walks around, barely anyone knows who he is. Once in a blue, so like, Joe, Boondock Saints, I'm a big fan, da-da-da. He gets his love where it's needed. People in the industry know who he is, but he lives a good life. But point being is really question what success is, question how much fame you want and what it means to you, and then question, like, the bigger purpose in life, like being good. And I think the golden rule, do unto others.
Right. That's a hard one.
Hard one.
But it's the best one.
Yeah.
Dude, this has been great, man. I appreciate it. I wanted to catch up with you. I know we've had some technical difficulties, but I'm so happy you're enjoying Florida, man. I try not to tell anybody about North Carolina.
Visit. You and your girl got a place to stay. You guys want to come out, you got a place to stay.
All right, man. Yeah. Well, I just had my mom in town, and what you were talking about, energy, and you got to put your head down out here.
Yeah.
And you just kind of like don't acknowledge it, and then when you get somebody from home come out, it's just reassuring of like what real people are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get it, man. I get it.
But man, I'll let you go, dude. This was great, man, and I wish you the best on Graps, dude. I feel like you need to get. I'm not trying to tell you how to run your business, but like feel like
I'm open. I'm an open fucking. I love advice.
But like, you get a big name in jiu-jitsu to start promoting your. Yeah. I mean, it seems like influencer marketing is like the thing that pays for itself.
You're right. So the issue is I've had smaller time jiu-jitsu guys do it and had, every time they post, they want money, and then I'll get like 5 to 6 sales, and then the ROI isn't great. And then the big time jiu-jitsu guys with the 1 million followers plus, the Gordon Ryans, there's no way I can afford them. So I gotta find a good, and I do. And if you ever know anyone that's like in the 50K to 200,000 market of followers that they're in, like kids posted for me a bunch, and you get a couple sales, nothing crazy. But yeah, it's something I utilize. I also need to do door to door, and when I say door to door, like physically reach out to like online stores, because distribution is the way to go. I want to send them 100, 200 units. You guys sell them, buy them at wholesale, and you guys make your markup. But that's my objective. Like, I have a couple of distributors in Japan, in the UK. I got to reach out to like German market, Italian market. And if they could sell every year, they order like 200 gloves. Now, if I just multiply that by 10, now I'm sitting more pretty. And if I could do that in the US and get on a couple of the bigger websites, and I've reached out, it's not because I haven't tried. It's just there's these fucking barriers that they're hard to get to, and trial by fire. Sometimes you get through it, sometimes you don't.
Well, I mean, I think it's a great product, dude. I mean, it's the only one of its kind.
Right.
And, dude, the older you get with your hands, you have to wrap.
Trust me, a lot of my customers are older, and they say, I wish I started using them earlier. But, we'll see. The student will see. They'll understand. Okay, I need this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Are you training? You're still training?
I'm not training, man. I haven't trained in a while. I keep myself in great shape, But as far as rolling, I don't roll that much. I've got a low back thing that's
I'm out
been,
for the last 10 days because of my low back. It's really
yeah,
frustrating. I'm
it's just not,
contemplating on whether I'm going to go back on the mats on Friday,
yeah.
but it's there, man. It fucking sucks.
Yeah, it's not worth the squeeze these past few
Well, for me,
years.
my mental, I need it. I'll go
Yeah.
cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, do you do any like kickboxing on a bag or anybody you know can
I have
hold
a bag.
mitts?
I have a bag in my garage.
Yeah.
I have a speed bag and a heavy bag. I've done mitts a couple times at the academy, just some guys that are good kickboxers. But
Yeah.
I think about it. I think about there's a ATT close to me that just does stand up. I might join that.
Yeah.
But I'm just a grappler. Like, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I want to be more of a striker. I just don't
Yeah.
love it as much as I love grappling.
I feel like the key, man, like I was doing this, like I got so much better in my wrestling when I was coaching wrestling.
Of course. Agreed.
And I was wrestling high school kids where I would just like, hey, let's just drill for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to respect you. You know, like you get somebody your age, you're like, you know, they start going a little harder than you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, God, we got to wrestle live now. Damn.
Yeah.
But like, I was like, if I could find somebody like that and just drill, like hard drilling for like an hour, that'd be amazing.
So
I
you're
always
just
get injured in the live goes.
Sure. You're just lifting right now is what you're doing. Is that right?
Dude, I do so much cardio. I do a lot of lifting, but a lot of cardio. I've got, you know, the Santa Monica stairs?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm doing 30 rounds on Monday. So next
Shit.
Monday.
How
Yeah.
many
So
days
my
a week?
buddy, what's that? Next week. Yeah.
How many days a week do you do it?
I usually do 2 to 3,
Wow.
but I've been ramping up. So I got one session a day. I'll do 15 rounds today, and then I'll take the rest of the week off until Monday to let my body recover. I started doing this. My buddy passed away. What's that?
You're not going to be able to walk.
Well, because I built up, I won't be as sore. Yeah,
I
man.
won't be able to walk.
Yeah. Oh, dude, you would not walk. It's
Yeah.
such a hard ramp up. Like you're just killing your body. But my buddy and I did it. He was what's that?
What were you saying? I cut you off.
Oh yeah, my buddy, who was like my mentor as a trainer at Equinox, he got cancer in 2020. The month of the shutdown in March, he got his cancer diagnosis. He passed away in January. I think it was January. Yeah, 4 years, almost to the day of the diagnosis, he passed away. And
How old?
but he was 44.
Unreal, man.
I know, man. But he on his 40th, so on I think it was in 21 in 2021, he'd gone through some chemo in 2020, and then he was coming out of it in 2021. He was like, "Hey, I feel good. Let's do something." So we set a goal for on his 40th birthday, we're going to do 30 rounds on the stairs. So that's kind of the reason why I'm doing it again, just in remembrance of him, you know.
He wasn't an actor, was he?
No, he was not an actor. He trained celebrities. He trained a bunch of celebrities. Yeah.
Super sad. It's crazy. This story is my brother-in-law's best friend at 42 just passed away from cancer. It's so weird because I see myself still as a kid. I'm 43, and like to have people my age that are just dying like that.
Passing away from a disease.
Yeah, from a disease. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Also healthy, like, you know, not unhealthy. I shouldn't say healthy, but like they're not unhealthy. They're just out of the blue, like you said. I'm assuming this kid at 40 like had some ailment, went in and like, yeah, you got cancer. It's like fucking
crazy, man. I mean, he's the healthiest guy I've ever known.
Yeah.
And he had pain in his armpit, and he tried to roll it out. He thought it was just a muscle, you know, like his lat was tight or something like that. It never went away. Tumor.
Sucks to hear.
So yeah, man.
All right, well, man, stay in touch. Like
absolutely.
Offer stands. You ever end up in Florida? If you do a set out here, you got a place to crash. Try to get you back on the mat. See what we can do.